Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's URX Roundtable in partnership with Symba on best practices for a high converting internship program. My name is Ahva Sadeghi. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Symba. As many of you know, Symba is an internship management software, and one of our goals is to drive higher conversion rates. I'll be your moderator today and really excited to see so many familiar faces. Before I kick it off, I'll pass it over to Carolyn if you wanted to say a few words before I introduce the moderators.
Hey everyone, thank you so much for giving an hour of your time to hang out with us today. My name is Carolyn. I am a member of Team URX/OneRec. For those of you that have never heard of URX, we are a community of passionate early talent recruiting and development professionals. Our members are the engine that helps companies recruit, develop, and retain exceptional early career talent. If you want to hear more and if you want to participate in any of our discussions that we have a really awesome Slack community that's actually open to anyone in the talent acquisition space. So I'll be dropping the join link in the chat section. And if you hopefully like everything that you hear from today's session, we'd love to invite everyone on this call to attend our annual conference that's coming up in early May. It's fully virtual and will take place on Hopin. So I'll also drop the conference website as well. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks so much, Carolyn. And it's so wonderful to be here with you all and excited to dive in. We're going to kick off the event with a short 15-minute panel with Q&A. And then we'll split into breakout rooms where everyone can definitely participate, and we'll continue the conversation there. Today's panel will feature two incredible leaders that I truly look up to in the industry. We have Joy Osborne, the Director of University Talent Engagement at Zwift, and Cheri Hurtubise, Associate Director of Talent Acquisition at Chewy. So without further ado, let's get started. One of our first questions is all about conversion rates. It's one of the most important metrics used to determine and measure success of internship programs. However, each org sometimes designs it and understands it very differently, whether that's intern to full-time, intern to returning intern, or another metric. I'll first pass it over to you, Cheri. How would you define this at Chewy?
So first, thanks for being here. I'm Team Waffle Fries, by the way, in that poll. Very exciting that it's popular with everyone. For me, I mean, the internship program should, in terms of conversion, should be assessing both of those things, right? The returning intern group, very important because we all know, or hopefully we know, if they return to you for another internship, they are so much more likely to say yes to that full-time job at the end of the day. So you want to be including that in your measure. And then when you think about for a business, true headcount requisitions filled each year is critical, right? That is, air for the business on a permanent basis. And so making sure that we do understand of those who were offered or eligible for offer. I think this is an important point. We don't want to count the people that weren't eligible for an offer, didn't perform well, et cetera. So of the pool we offered to, how many said yes to us to come back full time is how we're looking at conversion. Because they're the tried and true tested talent that you're really looking at in terms of converting your full-time positions.
I'll pass the mic over to you, Joy. How would you define that at Zwift?
Well, Cheri, you just have all the right answers. I don't know how to follow that up with anything interesting. I am team twice baked potato, but I will lay down my life for a McDonald's French fry every day of the week. Very hot though, so it burns. Anyway, I will echo the fact that we definitely number one, education is most important. I think no matter where you are in the organization, big organizations, small organizations, you have to educate your leaders on what this means and how and why you're tracking it. So when we talk about conversions, I will never forget this when I was at a company that I've been to a couple of times in my life, eBay back in the day, and I was talking to a leader about this. We talked about the offer rate, right? The percentage of how many offers did we make to the students, and our offer percentage was like 65 or 70. He's like, why isn't that 80? Why isn't that 90? And I said, well, actually, your managers set a really high bar and they're not making offers to everyone. And so there's a component of education, I think, that Cheri mentioned when you're talking about those eligible, is that you really need to work with your leaders to understand what all of those numbers mean and how you break it down. If you put a number on the screen where you start with your interns and then a number, we call them Zwifterns here, sorry, so I might say that, and a number where you end up, and it doesn't match like math, you have to really clearly state what percentage of what pool of numbers that you're looking at. So we as well look at those who are eligible for that full-time offer. That's the true kind of offer conversion rate. I typically have not tracked carefully or closely the intern conversion rate, returning intern conversion rate. And the only reason why that's not been as high for me is I am finding, and I don't know about you on there on this call, that a lot of Zwifterns, interns are literally saying, listen, I've got one more summer, I want to try something different. And that's, we get that. Usually people say when you get them that last summer, kind of the last company to hire that person usually wins. So in some respect, if they do come back for a different summer, that's pretty impressive. We actually have one coming back. We've made a couple offers and they're going elsewhere, and that's fine. But I think that conversion rate for returning interns is a little trickier for me to show as much value in, I think, because we do want well-rounded people who have a diversity of experience. So that's what we're seeing on our side.
Thank you for sharing, Joy. And I said team curly fries, even though I don't know how to make them. I have a strong appreciation. And so that was actually a perfect segue into my next question, which is, because Joy, you said our managers set the bar too high. So how do we really understand and how do we define what a successful intern conversion rate looks like? And just to paint the picture, I'll share some numbers from URX surveys, which are so valuable. Just from last year, across those who onboarded software engineers in 2021, 52% converted more than 70% of their interns to full-time. And across those who onboarded non-tech interns, 37% converted more than 70% of their interns to full-time. So I'll open this back up to the floor, Cheri and Joy, around how do you set the bar for what is a fair conversion rate for the organization?
I'll just jump in and I won't ramble as much, I promise, Cheri. I think consistently I have used the percentages of around, for educating leaders, is that anywhere from 85 to 90, 95 is like excellent. Like that is on par with quality program, robust summer experience, engaged managers as well, because the interns want to come back and work for those wonderful teams. So I use that as that's kind of a company standard across the board. If it's less than that, it doesn't mean it's bad. It just means that you might be growing your program and it takes time to develop you as an employer of choice. I think we're in that situation where we were very excited to get the amount of candidates saying yes to us. We did have 86% of the offers we made say yes, which was quality, first time formal program, we made those. So that was good. Now, keeping that bar high is really important. But I also think there are a lot of outside circumstances with COVID situations, that this year or last year might be a little tweaky. But I think that number 70% I'd say is good, but I tend to say a little bit higher is maybe what industry standard might be.
We want to strive for the best, right? If we can rock in those mid to high 80s or above, like you've got something really good going on there. I think for us, we're hoping our offer rate's 70% or above, and we usually get a lot higher than that. We'd be shoving it under the rug here if we didn't talk about what a candidate's market this is, right? Right now, we've got, post-COVID, some scenarios around, can you offer remote work or not offer remote work, changing what your conversion rates in game might ultimately be. So I think it would not be surprising if you look at your program versus consistently many years, you're in the 80s, you're feeling good, or even, high 70s and feeling good, and see it go down this year, right? I think that's, as I've understood it, pretty normal in a lot of market, because there are elements we can't control on the yes, right? You can give a great experience, location matters, compensation, and frankly, there's a lot more UR programs coming up, right? Companies are getting wise to this and saying, hey, this is a strong pipeline for talent and less expensive talent, transparently, in the organization. I do want to call out, Chewy is a multi-degree recruitment program. Our conversion rate is much higher at the undergraduate level than it is at an MBA, right? Level. They get one internship, one choice. To your point, Joy, returning interns want to shop around, have a breadth of experiences. They get 3, sometimes 4 opportunities to do that, and MBAs get 1, right? So it can be harder to close them. And I'd say it's more realistic to look at 50-60% conversion on that MBA population.
One other thing I wanted to add is we talked about like the breaking out the tech or non-tech. I currently did not do that this year with my teams. Our numbers are so small. We hired 36 students last summer. You know, we're getting 18 back. It's like, you know, baby program. But with that said, I think you also going in need to think, where are your metrics on who you're hiring into your program? So I remember back in the day where I was at a company that focused on not wanting to hire rising seniors because they weren't quite able to make that gap of committing to an offer after that summer. They just wanted more time to, you know, so they'd look at rising sophomores, rising juniors. So that kind of says like, well, then you don't even have those eligible for full-time offers. So if you're a program that really says, hey, we want to go down further into the undergrad population and more early rising sophomores, then you just don't have those numbers to convert to full time. So you kind of have to look at that as well going in, where your company sits on, do you only hire rising seniors or do you actually expand it to hiring other levels?
Thank you for shedding that light too, Joy. And Cheri, to your point, we're really excited about the growth of more UR programs and also how leadership is waking up to realize the power of early talent development programs and how, like you said, they are more affordable and they're really powerful for the organization. One thing I'd love to transition to talking about is pre-internship activities. So the cycle of internships are not just in the summer or, you know, certain programs, it's throughout the year. And I know I spoke with Cheri a little bit about this, but about programs that can be crucial to converting your interns as they set up their program for success. What are some of the goals and ways that you map out your program, Cheri? And then I'll pass it over to Joy.
Sure. So I would say when you know you want to hire and convert this intern, get that offer out the door as early as humanly possible. I think is really where it starts after you've assessed kind of their quality, you know, of internship that you know you want them back. And that if you can't, we get it, right? But if you can get it before they get back to campus, that's really your first win touch point, right? They're going back to school to their peers with an offer in hand. I think that that's important if you can do it. And if you can't do it, and sometimes we can't, as soon before recruiting season kicks off that they already have it, right? You don't want them necessarily going back to the pool if they know that they may want to come back and work for you. And when I think about mapping this out, I mean, we're cyclical in UR, right? We should be able to map out all these touch points of when makes sense. And it's going to be different for your organizations to engage with, you know, your interns. For me, I think about when I'm about to go recruit back on campus, they're my advocates, right? Even if they're not going to take my offer, but they had a good experience, let me inform them, arm them with what we're going out recruiting for, when we're coming, can they refer people? I mean, shout out to referral programs, keep them coming, right? It helps drive this for us. So making sure that they know when you're coming, they'll feel an engagement touch point. We like to do something around finals week or New Year's holiday, like, hey, we sent, you know, blankets this past year. Hope you're having a cozy new year, you know, types of things, even to folks who declined our intern conversion offer. That goes a long way as well. Quarterly earnings, easy lift if you do nothing else, right? Hey, you know, you're coming back to add value to this organization. We just released financials. Thought it'd be interesting for you. Anything, you know, new that we've done with our organization, public knowledge. I think you have to have a really strong communication cadence for that. On top of the standard things, right? When you're going to initiate relocation, make sure they know exactly when they're going to hear about that from you, right? For coming back into the organization. When are they going to know who their exact manager is? Things change all the time at Chewy. We reorganize, we have new people join, we grow. Your manager might be a different person, but we really lay out a good calendar for our intern conversions to come in and say, hey, I know exactly when I'm going to hear from you, and hold me accountable, right? At the end of the day.
Awesome. Yeah, we are a small but mighty program, but still I think that personal connection has a meaningful impact. We are focused on creating what we call a ready to ride program. Obviously, we're Zwift, we're about cycling and running, so everything has to have some kicky reference to what we do. But truly, we believe that, you know, creating a program called Ready to Ride means the minute they accept to the time they start and they're on the bus or on the treadmill or on the bike with Zwift, that they are feeling connected as they felt in the summer. I think the thing that I hear most from students who are going back to school and doing, you know, the school and the whatever they're doing, they miss that camaraderie and they miss that connection. And so our Ready to Ride program, of course, at time of accept, we're sending out that, well, you know, that accept gift, right? Get them kitted out, give them some swag, as well as we've created some social media. So when they're getting their offer and after they've accepted, you know, a simple "I'm hired" with, you know, some lovely Zwift branded stuff that they can put on their socials. So it's really exciting to be able to say, yes, I've got a new job and here's what the company looks like. And it's been fun to see that in the last couple of months when our students have been hired from our fall recruiting, as well as our intern conversions who are coming back now, to see that on socials. We also need to build out, we haven't done it as much, but build out that manager and that business track, right? So yes, our program team will stay connected on all those important touch points, but really aligning the business to be able to provide business updates, also start connecting with them before they start, so they can talk about what the work will be now, right? And the newness of their teams, right? We've got people leaving the company because we're kind of at that inflection point from a startup. We've got people joining the company. So the organization will look so different from when they start. I think that's important when they come back, that they feel like they're coming back into kind of something they know and not something so different, and making that transition easier. And so that Ready to Ride program will have more components of here's what the program team does, here's what the managers do. So we don't feel like the program team has to do all of the work, because really it's a lot of the teams and managers' responsibility as well. So we just help kind of navigate that for them and provide access to do so.
That's one, Joy. This is a community effort, right? Engagement is not all and only on the UR teams, right? To do. They want to hear from the managers. They want to hear from their team members. They want to hear from other folks as well. Definitely.
Yes, I think back to my own internships, and that was so powerful. And I'm still in touch with many of my managers even to date, and they've had a really large impact. So plus one of the community effort, and really impressive, Joy, that you already have a Ready to Ride program in your first year. I really am impressed by the naming of so many of your programs, and the swag that Chewy sends out makes me want to be an intern. So really love the work that you're doing there. So one of my last questions, and then we'll save 2 minutes for Q&A for the panel before we move out into breakout rooms. This one is kind of course correcting during the program, right? We're talking about these conversion rates, and oftentimes we understand at the very end when it's really too late. So what can you do during the program to understand that you're on track or you're off track and course correct?
Are you talking about the summer program? Just making sure. Yeah.
Yes.
And we're in the process of kind of not building that, but just revising what we did last year. And we're in a, to be honest, the company is the first doing performance reviews, like formal ones, for the first time. We did it 6 months ago. So think about that. We're taking an organization who's not been used to writing formal performance reviews to writing them for themselves. And then, oh, by the way, they have this student or students they need to do the same for. So we are working very closely with our PBPs, our people business partners, to align our performance management strategy with what the company does in that 3-month bite-size moment, right? So we did it last year before the performance management kit rolled out. So we're going to do it similarly. And what we do is just make sure that the managers and the Zwifterns very much know the process in which we'll be reviewing their performance. We have kind of an informal 1-month check-in, nothing written, but just a check-in to make sure everyone's good and on par. We do a formal 6-week check-in. That's where written feedback is given. We're not quite as advanced to get it into our Workday system, fingers crossed, maybe in a year or so. But then at the 10th week, we require that final review to come in. We know that sounds like, what, 2 weeks? You got 2 more weeks of work. Well, last week, 12th week is pretty much like peace out. 11th week is when we need to really start rolling out those offers and that offer process. And so that formal review at that 10th week is really crucial, that we can start then, doing that fun, 6 weeks of offboarding people and extending offers. But it's very much aligned with how we are setting SMART goals at the beginning and how it's aligned with our professional recruitment, performance management. So it's not confusing, like, why are you doing a whole different thing for the Zwift turns? It's definitely aligned in there. I do have another comment after, Cheri, maybe you talk about it. Someone had a question about a community, how to build that community during those times. I can talk about that afterwards. I do have an answer for that too.
I'll agree, with the transparency up front, right? If you fail to plan, you plan to fail when you're thinking about the performance evaluation and measurement of your interns. And this doesn't have to be rocket science things. Each of our companies have mission and values, or at Chewy, we call them our operating principles. And we pull out of that, here's the core competencies for success. And we don't hide them. We tell it to students before they interview with us. They know what their strengths and opportunities are. They know it from the onboarding of coming into the internship program. We pretty much say, hey, here's what we're going to measure you on. Here's what it looks like to do a good job at this. As it, talk to your manager about these things as they relate to your project. And we do, similarly, Joy, have the performance evaluation mid-cycle, and then finally at the end. And so the feedback loops are really important. If a mentor or a manager, we do offer mentors to our interns, see that there's an issue, they circle it back to us, right? So we kind of understand, and one of the biggest, most important learnings and questions to ask is this a blocker or is this coachable, right? Because the last thing you want to do is hear the feedback and think everything's a blocker. And I think manager training up front is so important too, so that they understand, hey, you're going to have to do a little hand-holding with some of these populations. They're not a contractor, already ready to deliver everything you ever wanted under the sun, right? Over a 10-week period with us, right? They're going to need some coaching and they can get there, right? It's amazing what especially undergraduate students can do in terms of transformation when they get good, strong, actionable feedback on an issue. You can get to a yes at the end if you're paying attention to, are things coachable? You're attacking it when you hear about it and you have mechanisms to make sure, right, that everyone's on track. But it's your offer to lose at Chewy, right? That's the way that we approach this. Like, hey, we're setting transparently up front what we expect of you. If you can meet this, there's an offer coming to you at the end, right? And you may choose to take it and you may choose not to take it. But it really goes a long way to set up your program that way, if you can. Instead of, hey, we're competing against each other as interns, right, for a limited number of spots. That really is counterproductive to your sense of community. Some students have things to share that can help other students from a coaching perspective or deepen their technical skills, etc. Don't set them up in a way that they don't want to share, right, because they think they're competing with each other. So I think the training is really important, tying to your mission, values, operating principles, competencies. So important, because then if you do those things, we already know we're budgeting. Like I mentioned, trying for a 70% offer rate. I'm expecting about 30% probably aren't going to make it there, right? Or it was a different choice for them of liking the experience. So there's not a lot of course correcting you necessarily have to do if you're planning for some folks to not work out.
The other thing I'd add, I think I did this, I can't remember which company, how many years ago, but, and I know many of you have large programs, but the moment that the recruiters I had on the team or myself were connecting with the students as well during those check-in times. So it's not just the manager and the student, there's like that trifecta. So coming in as the recruiter or the person who brought them in, assessing like, how are they feeling? You really get a really good vibe of like that they're kind of here in it and they want to be here, versus it's just another job they're checking off, and trying to, I don't know. I think that's important as well, as the recruiter knowing really well the candidates they brought in and assessing from that perspective as well.
Thank you. I think that one of the bigger themes I'm picking up, it's a community effort. Managers are super involved. Recruiters still need to be involved, and just creating transparency at the beginning. Like, this is our goal, and letting everyone know and understanding if it's fair and how to course correct. And right now we'll go ahead and open up. If anyone has questions, please post in the chat. I know there was a question, and I know, Joy, you said you wanted to add to it, but what platforms do you recommend to build community? LinkedIn groups, potentially. Love to hear from you.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm first of all, I'm very jealous of the group or the people who asked it in conference room NYC, whatever, that they're working in a conference room together. I love that. So excited. We're not quite back to work yet, but when we are, I might do a few business trips. Anyway, we use a vendor called Gradual. I actually tried to find their website. I'm like, do they have a website? Anyway, long story short, it's a platform that's all about community building. There was an organization called ELC, which is Engineering Leadership Community, that was started from an engineer who wanted to build more leaders within engineering, right? So going from that IC to that leader. And when COVID hit, they were going to have an in-person conference. Am I choppy, or can you hear me okay? Okay, good. And so what they did is they went to look at Hopin, they went to look at all these things, and they said, it's not really what we want, so we're going to build it ourselves. So the tool they built is called Gradual. If anyone's interested, I can connect you with their COO, Kyle. He's amazing. It is a community building site in the way that it acts as like a match, like there's opportunities to match with people. So once people join, and it can be anyone, it can be external employees, internal employees, anyone you want, right? I know there are a lot of tools out there where you can do events and host events, but this is one place where you could do that, or you can just have your intern. So they have opportunities to put content in there. They have opportunities to put videos. They have opportunities to do small group breakouts. They have opportunities to do like matching, like kind of mentor matching. So a couple of ways we used it last year, and we plan to use it similarly and maybe broader this year, is we did our 2 days Zwift Turn Summit. So where we would have wanted to be in person, we did it virtually. This tool Gradual brought everyone together. We did presentations. So we had information on the teams, and they're right about the project. So when we invited people from the employees to come and listen, they could join in, they could engage and interact. There could be a breakout room, there's a chat. So it's like Zoom, but on steroids. And it's really cool because you don't have to be at the company to be a part of it, right? If you've got an event you want to host and invite anyone, invite them, give them access, and you can have a nice, good conversation. So we also use it for our final presentations. In some way, unfortunately, it didn't quite work on the minute we needed to. We had to like go to Zoom breakouts, but the idea is that we have a platform that can aesthetically and UX, it looks stunning, and there's a lot of great information, but it really does build community. So as I talked about the Ready to Ride program, now as we head into next recruiting season, we're going to launch it and be more proactive about launching it, as that's the place where we're going to keep our people engaged and come and get information, come and have little social events, even if when they're back on campus. So super excited to share it with you, anyone who's interested. And they also, like I mentioned, it's kind of a remote conference platform that you can use. So you can have a stage, right? You can have a breakout room, slightly different than Hopin. I know you've used Hopin for different things. But it's great. We're really happy with it.
I'll add some other community things, because there's definitely the engagement of your interns once they're there, but so often we're also asked about, how do I get to know everyone else who's also joining you, whether that's housing, or if there's anyone from the same school, or carpooling, or whatever it is, right, at the end of the day. And I think a couple of things to keep in mind or learning is privacy is real important, right? So just a note on, we have students opt in, right, through surveys when we're asking them excitedly about their t-shirt size, when we're asking them, hey, which of these 8 different types of social events would you vote for, right? Oh my God, students love to have a say in what you're going to schedule for them. So give them a say in the things you're going to schedule for them. But you can ask them to opt into, would you like to have your personal information shared with other interns? And then they can start to build their connections before they even join you, right? If they've opted into that. And then again, they don't opt in, they don't have to be included in the lookbook or connection email or resume book or any of those things. And I mean, don't, some of your programs, if you're smaller, like you might have to be scrappy about some of this stuff, right? That sounds like an awesome tool, Joy, and Symba certainly we've used, and it's a great tool as well. But if your program's really small and you can't afford tools, there's impact in a Google map. Drop a pin to where you are and what school you're from and what department you're working in, right? And be able to share these things for free, right, amongst your intern community and population. I'm from here and I'm working out of Florida. I'm from here, I'm working out of San Francisco, whatever it is. Remember, it's not always the glittery, shiny things. The question is, what can you do that creates impact, right, for the intention of community build? And sometimes it's a small thing.
Yes, thank you for sharing, both Cheri and Joy. And we at Symba migrate a lot of our teams from spreadsheets and from Google Docs onto Symba. So you have to start somewhere, and it's really important that you actually create your process before you're ready to even scale with tools and all. So great. Thank you so much both for these insights, and thank you all for your questions. I think that now we'll pause. We have a quick poll that we're going to do before we go into breakout rooms, which will be the fun part. And I'll let everybody go ahead and pick your poll.